Well, welcome, Andy. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Nice for you to chat. So let's talk about your music career. So it all starts at the start of the 1980s. So when did you decide to become a musician, and what sort of music were you into back then?
Do you know what? I didn't make a conscious decision. I'm going to become a musician. But what happened is I loved music. I listened to a lot of music when I was like 12, 13, 14. Discovered all these different things. Went mad. Um, and then went to someone's house. So until that time, I had no interest in being a musician. I just loved listening to music. I loved bass players. I loved drummers. All different stuff. And I went to a friend's house and he'd just bought a drum kit.
Hmm.
And he said to me at school, he said, "Oh, I bought a drum kit." And I went, "Oh, really? Couldn't give a crap, to be honest. Couldn't give a damn." Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, right. And he said, "When you come later, you'll see." I went, "Yeah, okay, fine." Because I used to go to his house quite often after school. So I went round to his house and he had this drum kit and it was sitting there. And he said, "There it is." And I went, "Oh, okay, yeah, fine." He said, "Do you want to have a go?" And I went, "Yeah, well, I suppose, you know." So I gave him the
Hmm.
drumsticks and I walked over and sat down and literally just went pish bosh bosh, ran this kit. Not a clue what I was doing, obviously, but it was instant, instant. At that minute, I thought, this is what I want to do. I couldn't play. I just sat behind him and thought, oh my God, this is to be able to sit here and make these sounds. This is fantastic, you know. Um, and after I went home, and the next day I went out and bought a set of drumsticks.
Right.
That's as far as I got because that's all I could afford, and I had no drums. So I just found things at home to bang on,
Hmm.
boxes, things, and started banging, making a noise. And at the time, I was listening to a lot of. I was a big David Bowie fan. I loved Status Quo. But at that time, I just loved the raw energy that they had. So I started drumming to Status Quo, David Bowie, trying to replicate what I was listening to, what I thought they were doing. Although when I think back now, I think well, there was no, I had no bass drum and no hi hat and no cymbals. So everything I was doing was my hands on this box. So
Right.
when I eventually got a drum kit, it's very different because I thought, right, there's a bass drum there. I need to sort that out and bring that into play. Oh, and the hi hat that opens and closes. And I knew so little about drumming that I'd even set the drum kit up the wrong way. And somebody came around, a friend of my dad's upstairs to my room, and he looked at it and he went, "Oh, okay." He went, "So you're left-handed then?" And I said, "No." He said, "We set it up for a left-handed drummer." Had he not come in and it carried on for months or whatever, I'd have learned to play a left-handed drum kit as a right-handed drummer, which would have been very strange, and it's just not the norm. Anyway, he swapped them around for me, and from that point, I just got to drumming and yeah, as I said, trying to copy what I was listening to and thinking, right, how are they doing this? Right, okay. And I just went on and just went for hours. I'd play for hours, and then in my mind, I think, yeah, I'm playing at a concert at Wembley. Yeah, it's just imagine me playing there, and like all little kids at that, and it just progressed from there. But prior to that. No interest whatsoever. Interest in music, absolutely in love with music. I was listening to Santana, I was listening to Genesis, I was listening to lots of jazz funk, like Grover
Hmm.
Washington, people like that, the Crusaders, but not interested in playing. Just wanted to drum.
How popular were
Sorry,
you?
sorry, just wanted to listen, not drum. So I just wanted to listen, no drumming.
Yeah. So
Um,
how popular were you with with your family, with your banging in your bedroom?
um, they weren't enamored. I said, could at least learn to play the triangle. I'm sure they would have preferred that. My neighbours weren't too pleased. My neighbours weren't pleased at all, but I was very reasonable about it. I didn't drum in the middle of the night. It was,
Yeah.
afternoons. But we did have a few set twos with them, to say the least. We got to the point where we were no longer speaking to them. You know, the police had been called. There'd been punches thrown. There was all kinds of nonsense happening. But then the funny thing is, we never spoke to them for years. There was a big court hearing as well because got really out of order at some point. So the police came and went to court. And um, then I appeared on Top of the Pops on a Thursday. We hadn't spoken for 4 years before this, 5 years. And on the Friday, I walked out of my house and the neighbour said, "Oh, hello, it's because I saw you on TV last night." I thought, "You haven't spoken to me for 5 years." So I just looked at her, I just looked the other way and thought, I'm not even going to entertain that because you're only speaking to me because you saw me on TV. You want to tell people that guy from that band lives my next door neighbour and I know him. No, you don't know me. I'm off, you know. So, don't suffer fools gladly. Sorry, but I don't. So, but yeah, so the rest of the neighbours were fine. It's only those ones next door. But every on the
Yeah,
other, the next door neighbours on the other side, the people at the back, everyone was fine. You know, because as I said, I was reasonable about it. I didn't drum into the wee hours or get up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday and start drumming. I didn't do
yeah.
that. But yeah, my parents did sort of sometimes think, oh, we should have picked up something else. But uh, that's what I feel. It's like a woman. You fall in love with the woman you fall in love with, you know. So I fell in love with that drum kit, with the drums, that instrument.
Yeah.
Unavoidable.
Well, Modern Romance already existed, didn't they? And you sort of joined the band quite weird because you just saw them live, didn't you, to start with?
Well, no, I didn't actually see them. I went to the Blitz, which is now synonymous with the
New
new romantic
Romantics. And,
movement and everything else. So I went to the Blitz one evening, just on the just said to a friend, "Where should we go tonight?" So I was clubbing every single night. I mean, every night.
hmm,
Where should we go tonight? Oh, let's go to the Blitz. Um, and it is one of those sliding doors moments because you think, well, if I hadn't gone to the Blitz that night, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation.
yeah.
I would probably not have met my wife and had my kids because I met her through music. So anyway, so we went to the Blitz and this band were packing up. They'd just finished, and I was a bit disappointed because I love my thing was watching live bands. I
Hmm,
used to obviously study the drummer, but I used to watch everybody look at the drummer and think, oh, that's how you do that. Because I never had lessons, so it was
yeah.
sometimes you'd listen to things and go, does this drummer have three arms? How is he doing that? But there's a technique. There is a technique, and until you see someone or someone shows you, you think, it's all an optical illusion. Whilst he's doing this, he quickly flicks over and does that and comes back, and you think he's doing that. Right, okay, that. So I used to go and watch a lot of bands, as I said, and so to turn up and realise we've missed the band, I was a bit disappointed. And then, I mean, again, it's such an important thing. I asked the guy who was just sitting there, just said, "Sorry, mate." I said, the bands we've missed, I said, were they any good? What were they like? And he said, oh, they were pretty good. He said, yeah, they were pretty funky. Now, as soon as he said that word, I got interested because I was a big jazz, funk, and soul fan and dance and at the time. Um, so I went straight over and started talking to the drummer and said, look, if you know any bands that play music like yours, assuming they were a funk band, I
Hmm,
said, can you give me my number? I said, I'm in between. I've just left the band I was in. I'm looking for something. And he said, oh, give me your number and I'll see if I
hmm.
know. I then get a call shortly afterwards, a couple of days from the band saying, we're looking for a percussionist. And I thought, well, it's not drums, but it's something to do. It's a gig, play and have a laugh, meet some people, and okay, I'll go and play percussion. Before I got to doing that, I then get a call again saying, are you the guy that used to be the drummer in Rocker G, which is a band I was in, the band I'd left? I said yes, and he said no, because one of our band members saw them at, I think it was Monkberry's, this club in the West End, and said they were excellent. All the band were excellent. So if you're the drummer, we know you're excellent. So
Right.
do you want to be our drummer? And I said, well, hang on a minute. Firstly, you've got a drummer because I was speaking to him on the day, and they went, "Oh no, he's got one foot out the door already, but he doesn't know it. We've been looking for a drummer for a while, but he's not suitable for the band. He doesn't have the
Right.
right attitude." Blah blah. I know it. Well, I said, I don't know if I can do that. And they said, well, if you don't take it, someone else will. So you might as
Hmm,
well take it because he's going. So I went, okay then. But before that, I said, all right, you've heard me through word of mouth, or whatever. I said, I haven't heard you. I need to hear what I'm getting myself in. I can't just join the band and
yeah.
not what the music is. So I was then invited to a gig at the Bridge House in Canning Town, which is no longer there. It's a Sainsbury's now, I think, knocked it down. But yeah, that's where I first saw them, and I thought, do you know what? There was this kind of raw energy that I liked about them.
Hmm,
Um, Being perfectly honest, the only thing I didn't like at the time wasn't it was quite an important aspect of the band. I didn't like the vocals, didn't like the vocalist, didn't like his persona, his swagger on stage, and the way he spoke. definitely not his voice. I thought, but I thought the rest of them, okay, fine, maybe something can happen with this, you know. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go, you know, join. And off I went to the Railway Arches in Leighton shortly afterwards, Leighton or Leytonstone, one of the two, to rehearse
Hmm.
with his band. And I had to come home because at the time I lived at home. So I came home and said to my parents, I'm leaving my job to go and sign on the dole so I can join this band because they rehearse during the day. So I have to go and rehearse during the day with them because none of them work. They all rehearse in the day. They're dedicated to their craft. So
Hmm.
I need to go there in the day. And they were not pleased.
Uh,
That's the understanding. My dad said to me at the time, we didn't have a great relationship anyway, but he turned and said to me, you will never amount to nothing. And I thought, thanks for your support, Dad. Brilliant, you know. So I went and rehearsed with them, and yeah, another interesting thing. So with this first rehearsal, I'm sure it was the first rehearsal. So they're going, this is this song, and they're going, it goes like this, okay, and this is how the pattern goes. Okay, we start playing it, and then we do the next song. So at one point we had a break, and they were chatting amongst themselves, and I heard them mention record company.
hmm.
And I said, sorry, it's a record company. And they said, yeah, we've got a record deal. And I was immediately elevated thinking, oh my God, I've joined a band with a record deal.
Uh,
And in the 80s, that was such a hard thing to do to get a record deal anyway. You know, everyone was
hmm.
vying for a record deal. And then all of a sudden, I joined a band who've already got a record deal. And I thought, this is marvelous. And then I was soon cut down to size because they turned around in the same breath and said, yes, we've got a record deal. In actual fact, we've released two singles, but they were both massive flops. And then
Right.
if the next single releases a flop, they're just going to drop us from the label. And I was like this. Oh, right, okay. Not as great as I thought it was then. Um, and then coming from a soul and jazz funk background and being a bit snooty, if I'd say it myself, I was a bit snooty musically. Um, I wanted, I was interested in just the music. I didn't really want to hear stuff with vocals. Stop all that nonsense, all that whining. Let me hear some music. Let me hear musicians showing off. That's what I really wanted to hear. Um, and then so they said, "No, this is our next single," and they started playing "Everybody Salsa."
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, "Oh my God, you know, third strike and you're out, and this is your third strike." Oh, dear. But having said that, I did not know a lot about pop music at the time. I knew pop records, but I didn't know how pop music works and how you've got to appeal to the masses. And this little ditty could become really big, you know, because it's a sing-along song. And I was thinking more of where's the bass solo? Where's the string section at the back? You know, the
Yeah, yeah.
Philadelphia strings kind of thing at the back. Where's all that gone? You know. Um, but I have to say, um, I gladly ate humble pie thereafter when it became a hit, and I thought that song started the whole ball rolling for us. And yet I
Hmm.
was ready to dismiss it at the drop of a hat and go, "What a load of nonsense!" I couldn't say that, obviously, and to keep short, but I thought, "What is this nonsense?" And I even to the point where I went to a party shortly after we had a hit, and some people that knew me were there, and they'd always followed the other bands I was in. And one of them came and said, "Hi, Andy." It's a better head chat. And he said, "Andy, can I please say something?" And I said, "What?" And he went, "Everybody salsa, really?" And I said, "Let me say one thing." I said, "I played in all these bands, a blues band and this band that played really nice, great, like soulful stuff, you know, with feeling and great musicianship. No one knew who the hell we were." I said, "I go and do a 3 minute pop song and the whole world knows who we are."
Yeah.
I said, "You figure it out because I can't." But I said, "I'm glad to be there." And that was the
Hmm.
beginning of Modern Romance.
It was a strange time though, wasn't it? Because I mean, I was quite young in 1980, but I was just sort of getting into. I was a young teenager, so I was just sort of getting into music and finding, the music I liked, which turned out to be people like Madness and that sort of stuff. But we were just leaving the punk era, weren't we? So a lot of the music was quite sort of miserable. And then I think people wanted to be cheered up, didn't they? They wanted music that you could sort of sing to and dance to and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the music from the electronic side, I mean, you did have two facets to it. You had up music. I say up music, it was a music that was quite lively, But even then, the lyrics were quite somber, and you thought, wow, everyone's on a bit of a downer for some reason, you know. It's only now that I look back on it. At the time, you just didn't realise. But one of my favourite tunes from the 80s is OMD, Enola Gay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Great tune, really. Da, da, da. You go, yeah, yeah. And then when you hear the lyrics, you go, oh my God, you realise what it's about. And you go, oh,
That's not a
oh,
nuclear attack, isn't it?
yes. It's like, right, okay. It's not that much of a happy song. Enola Gay is not his girlfriend that he's just met. Right, okay. Um, so I, I, I didn't have a lot of input into Everybody's House. Obviously, they'd done it before I got there. But it just turned out to be a happy record that, as you said, everybody kind of latched onto and thought it gives us an opportunity to vent and just go, yeah, just have a great laugh. And so, having found that formula, we decided, well, let's not stray from that now. You can't go
Mm.
back to punk. And I must admit, um, the two previous records that they'd released, one of them was called Tonight, and we used to play that at all our live shows. It was a staple part of a Modern Romance gig. It was a great, I loved it. It was a great song. Just it was it was just a lovely driving song, and to play
Mm.
drums to it, it's like, really like, yeah, great song. The other one was a song called Modern Romance by Modern Romance.
Mm.
Imagination there. It's probably the worst song I ever heard.
Right.
Worse than Shut Up Your Face. It's worse than anything than anything, worse than the Birdie song. Honestly, it's just such a terrible, terrible song. And I thought, I'm not surprised you didn't make it with that one. That's awful. And last week, I had to send to a radio station. I said, can you send us a couple of links to YouTube videos that we're going to show, because it's a visual and audio as well. So I'm going to show a couple of videos. It's a visual show, so show a video, do something else, show another video. We want to show videos that you send us. So I went into the search bar and typed in Modern Romance videos, and it came up with a video. This is only last week. It came up with a video of that song, Modern Romance by Modern Romance, I'd never seen before.
Right.
And I was just looking at it thinking, oh my God, it's even worse as a video. It's terrible. It's like, oh no, no. I just watched. I thought, I can't watch anymore. Go away, go away. And when people say, oh, you used to be, because before Modern Romance was formed, the two founder members were members of the Leighton Buzzards
Mm. Yeah.
punk band. And people say, oh, you were in the Leighton Buzzards. And I said, no, not claiming that. Don't want anything to do with that. Nothing to do with the Leighton Buzzards, the punk thing, because I think they were pretty rubbish as well. So no, not me. Please make sure you underline that I was not in the Leighton Buzzards. But yeah, they stepped sideways to this Modern Romance thing, happened to hit it with Everybody Salsa, and at that point, obviously, I was in the band. We started promoting it, and 8 weeks after joining, we were on top of the pops.
Must have been amazing. What surprised you the most about going on that show?
What's the
What was the big surprise of going on top of the pops for you?
big surprise for me was that the studio is big, but not as big as you think it is.
Yeah.
If you imagine what they did, is they had this studio, it was quite a large studio. You had to get all the people in, all the cameras and stages, but they had the stages in a square kind of oval or circle shape, whichever way you want to see it. And the cameras would be in the middle and around the sides of this stage. And the people were standing at the front here. So when the cameras from the back were showing the crowd, and you'd see Group A, they'd stay where they were, and then all of a sudden everyone would turn around and be looking at that stage over there. The cameras would be
Ah.
there, so you'd
Mm.
see that stage and a different bunch of people at the front. So you're thinking, wow, this place is massive. You know,
Mm.
they're over there. They're not. It's just a circle, and they're just going around from here to there to over there, back over here, whichever order the bands were in. And you've got this perception that the studio is the size of an aircraft hangar, but it's not. But it's very clever the way they do it.
Ah.
All the camera angles and stuff was really clever.
Yeah. It always surprises me that I mean I don't think younger people realise I'm getting my old man hat on now, but The way music's changed nowadays, I think, is that back in the day, everybody knew what number one record was that week. It doesn't matter how old you were or how young you were; it was a big occasion, you know.
Yep.
And everybody sat around, you know, everybody was listening to the charts on a Sunday night, and everybody watched Top of the Pops. It was a family thing, wasn't it? You know.
Yep.
And it was a diversity of the music as well, and it's surprising now because everything's sort of R&B and dance when I bother looking at the charts. But back then you'd get like you'd have a reggae song, you'd have a heavy metal band, a punk band, a novelty record, and it was just that mixture, wasn't it? There was something for everyone in the charts.
I have said that so many times in interviews and said how the sort of eclectic collection of music on a Top of the Pops episode, you'll never get that again.
Mm,
The closest you'll get, I would say, is Jules Holland,
yeah, yeah,
because he picks this and that, and he picks all these weird things, or his producers do whatever. But um, the sad thing is, oh, all right, you've got all these channels now as well on TV, video channels. You can go on and listen to watch R&B videos all day, or 80s videos, or it's all pigeonholed. If you like
mm,
80s, 80s stuff, if you like
yeah,
rock, it's rock. If you like rock anthems, you go to that one. If you like it, right, you cannot go to a current show and go just play me stuff across the board, everything. So a bit of rap, a bit of rock, soul, jazz, funk, reggae, whatever,
yeah.
country. You can't get that. Whereas as you said, as you rightly said, on Top of the Pops, you could get that, and you'd be listening to a country song 1 minute, and then a reggae the next, and then a rock band, and then some
Mm,
throwaway song like "Shut Up Your Face" or something.
mm,
Um, and the sad thing, as far as I'm concerned, is you get people who like whatever it is music they like, and because shows like that don't exist, they won't sit down to watch. So somebody was a rock fan and they knew that Megadeth were going to be on Top of the Pops. They'd
mm,
sit and watch Top of the Pops with Megadeth had just broken through with their first chart single on Top of the Pops. They would watch it and then see other things, and it may spark them, and they think, oh, I quite like that reggae song. I'll go and look up that artist and then gradually get to like a bit of reggae as well, and expand their horizons musically. There's nothing like that now. They're very focused, they're very blinkered. That's what I like. And there's nothing to encourage them to do anything else. And I
yeah.
think it's sad because there's so much music out there that you could listen to that you sort of think, oh, I actually find this quite good, quite interesting.
Mm.
As I said, there's nothing to encourage people to do that, to step out of their comfort zone musically and go and listen to other stuff.
Well,
Like
suddenly you
lights.
Well, suddenly you were propelled into the public eye, weren't you? Like you said about your neighbour and stuff like that. So, how else did it change your life? Were you getting recognised quite often in the street and stuff?
Oh yes. I mean, you couldn't go shopping or to the shop. I mean, I've got so many stories of things that have happened. But the first time I got recognised was actually the day after that Top of the Pops. So we had Top of the Pops on Thursday. Friday I went out with friends, did whatever I did. Didn't
Hmm.
really. It just kind of washed over me. We did Top of the Pops. It's great. Now I'm out with my friends. I'm interested in the now. That was yesterday. I'm doing my friends now. It's great. Saturday came and I thought I'll go down to the local high street as I always did and go and buy a few bits that I need, go to the
Hmm.
shops. I'm walking up to the shops, and this group of girls were walking towards me. And, they were just a group of girls. I'm just walking up, and then as I happened to glance in their direction, I saw one of them looking at me intently is an understatement. She was transfixed, she was just looking at me. And as I got closer to her, her eyes were getting bigger. It's like she was staring, and I thought, and I looked behind me, I thought, who's she looking at? Why is she looking at? Oh, she's walking past me, and I thought, she's looking at someone else. And then she walked past me. I heard her go to her friends. Oh my God, it's him. Who? The guy, he was on Top of the Pops the other night. He's on that band. And I could hear him. And I thought, oh dear. And that's probably the first time and one of the few times I've been embarrassed because I thought, what do you do with this information now? What do I do? I remember thinking, right. And I could feel them all. They stopped. And I could feel they were all looking at me. And I thought, my only thought was, Andy, do not trip over now, do anything stupid. It's not the time to trip. Carefully place one leg in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, walk, and just easy does it. Take it easy, calm. But it was weird. After that, I began shopping, and people were saying to me, you're the guy from Monroe, man. Yeah. What are you doing here? Well, surprise, surprise, we eat as well, What strange, what am I doing? What do you think I'm doing in Sainsbury's? Shopping for a car? I come to get food it's like really weird. But I suppose people, if you're in their area, you don't expect to see someone that you see on TV in your local shop. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, especially that it was like, well, it's so and so, whatever. So people do get surprised, and that I suppose they do make silly comments like, "What are you doing here?" when you're at the hairdressers
Mm.
getting my hair cut. So yeah, but there was a lot of stuff. There were times when I used to go quite regularly to basketball games.
Yeah.
And I remember going once, and I took a girl with me. I took a date. I thought, yes, come with me to the basketball match, then we'll go for dinner. So I went to the basketball match and we're sitting there watching. And there's this kid sort of 3 rows down to the right, and I was up behind him, and he kept doing this and looking around at me. I saw him and I thought, oh, he's clocked it. All right, never mind, we'll be fine, we'll be fine. Yeah. And then eventually they had a timeout. He decided to come and ask for an autograph. Well,
Mm.
that was it. That was a signal. I didn't even realize other people had seen me. I was busy looking at the game. As soon as he stood up, everyone, oh, he's giving autographs. And there was this fear in front of me. Every time someone disappeared, another one came. And I never got to see the rest of the game. I just thought, okay, come on then. Off you go. All of you, come on, let's do it. So, but do you know what? I I have to admit, I've never turned anyone down for an autograph. I've never turned anyone down for a photo because I think it's an it really is a privileged position to be in, and it's an honor for someone to say, "May I have my picture taken with you?" when they don't even know you. You don't know them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think it's part of the job. And I have on occasion heard of other artists say, "No, I don't want to do this. I'm having dinner." Yes, you're having dinner, and you'll have dinner tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after, but they will not have you, whoever you are, walking into their local restaurant having dinner because it's a one-off because you live 130 miles away. You'll be wherever you are tomorrow, and they'll never see you again, and it can never happen again. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just do it. It's part of the job.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it. But anyway, people are different, aren't they?
Yes. Well, the band kept having more and more hits, didn't they? And so you got involved in the songwriting process with the band, didn't you?
I did eventually. Initially, it was very. It was a bit like being in Russia and Iran. I'm the boss, and anything you write belongs to me. And I thought, well, no, I'm not writing anything there. I'm not writing stuff and then giving it over to someone else.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
So, but eventually, it got to the point where they'd run out of ideas, and well, we have to look elsewhere. So let's look internally within the band. Does anyone have songs? And yeah, I wrote this. I'll go over and play it on the piano and go, I've got this, and oh, blimey. Well, yes, there are other people in the world that can write songs other than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, eventually I got into it, but it was a long while. And anything you contributed to the songs prior to that were taken on, but you were never credited as being even 5% songwriter or anything. It's like, no,
Right.
you gave us an idea that maybe even made the song.
Yeah.
I came out with the initial idea of the song. That's my song. And you sort of think, okay, so I won't suggest anything in the future. And it's a shame because
Yeah.
there are other ideas, which is one of the things I always admired about Duran Duran in the 80s. You looked at all their songs and it was Taylor, Le Bon and Rhodes as songwriters. And they didn't all sit down together and write every single song.
Mm.
But they agreed that whichever song we put on, we're all going to be songwriters because then you're not squabbling about, well, which song should we make a single? Well, let's make this song a single because I've got a songwriting credit on it and therefore I get loads of money in royalties when it's played on the radio.
Mm.
That's why everyone gets money and we put out the best song, which is what you really want to be doing.
Yeah.
But I should imagine there's a lot of, there was, well, I know there was a lot of internal politics with other bands as well, where that's concerned. And I'm pretty sure it still goes on to this day, where people go on about the songwriting. And I know that there's plagiarism and stuff going on. It's like, if you can't write a song and you have to take someone else's song, give them the credit for it at least.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, we had all the hits thereafter, which was great.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the best years of our lives. I mean, that was like a theme tune for the '80s, wasn't it? You know, that just turns up everywhere.
yeah, there it is. I mean, as a matter of fact, only 10 minutes before we started this call, I received an email and they've sent me. It's a carnival thing they do in Somerset. When
Mm,
I say carnival, I mean the carnival, the trucks, whatever they're called. I mean, the work they must have put onto this thing. It must. Well, I know he told me it took them a year. But as soon as they finished, they start building a new one for next year, and they've got
right.
people dancing and stuff on there, and they're playing best years of their lives. And
Well,
I think, wow, it's like everywhere. Um, I remember going to. I went to Disney World, Disneyland, Florida, the one in Florida with the kids, and we were walking in, and this was at Universal, and they were playing Best Years of Our Lives. So the kid says, Dad, listen, listen. And I thought, well, Shrek was out. I thought, okay. So I very rarely use the "Do you know who I am" thing because I think that's all nonsense. But I thought, no, on this occasion, I went and said, I phoned them up when I got back to the hotel, and I said, so I went on Facebook and looked at my Facebook and said, oh, right, okay. Right, if you come here tomorrow, we'll have passes for you. Passes whereby you don't have to queue. You just literally walk in. So we went and picked up these passes and we went in to see. I mean, Spider-Man, there was a queue that was 2.5 hours. There was
right.
estimate was between 2 and 2.5 hours. We walked in, walked out, walked straight back in, walked out. We did it 4 times. And my kids going, Dad, everyone's going to think we're rich. I was like, I don't care what they think. We get to see it 4 times and then go on to the next ride. Instead of queuing up to see it, to do it once after
Mm,
2 hours. So we were doing that and doing that, and that was great. And I thought, oh, so it's amazing. It's opened, being in the band, I have to admit, has opened very many doors for me that which otherwise would have remained firmly closed because I would have been one of the regular people. But
yeah,
you're in modern rooms, all right, okay, you can have this, you can have that. And I think, oh, okay, so, tickets to this, tickets to that. And I think, well, I suppose as part of being in the entertainment industry, you get these things, but we do the same. We put other bands and stuff on a guest list, and so it's
yeah.
a thing where you reciprocate. But it's a lovely thing to be part of.
When you were touring with the band, when you were doing sort of gigs and stuff like that, how did you find, did the audiences change depending on where you were? So, were the people, this is why I asked the question on the Facebook. So, in the North, were they different to like the London crowds and, you know,
Do you know what I think? The further north you go, and even into Scotland, I think the crowds get even better and they're more appreciative because probably Londoners are a bit. Not all Londoners, obviously, I'm generalising, but Londoners can be or tend to be a bit blasé because all bands come to London.
yeah,
So it's not as if, oh, so and so's coming to London. Oh my God, a musician's coming to London, but everyone comes to London. So it's not a question of uh, who you're going to see. It's a question of when you're going to see them this year,
mm,
next year, because they come all the time, right? But when you go further north and you go to places, where people don't visit very often, they're so grateful for you being there, and
yeah,
they kind of like take part a bit more, and they give a bit more of themselves to the whole event, and they want to be involved because these guys have come here. I mean, I did a gig 2 weeks ago in Somerset,
mm,
and I spoke to people left, right, and centre, and just chatting to people, and they were more than willing to come up and say hello. Whereas a lot of times people think they're either too posy to come and say hello. Oh, we're not going to go speak. We're busy having our champagne and our drinks, or they seem to think that you won't want to speak, which is understandable. Sorry about
mm,
that. But here they were sort of just very appreciative of the fact that we'd gone there.
yeah,
Everyone came around to say hello, and I was obviously glad to see everyone and went out to speak to them and mingle with them. and it was like almost like being at a house party, but it's a festival.
Mm,
It was lovely. It's brilliant. But as I said, I think the further out you go, and um, the more you go to a place which is off the beaten track,
mm.
they tend to appreciate you that much more because not a lot of people go there. But
Oh,
that doesn't mean to say that the London crowds aren't great. I mean, I played at Battersea on Battersea Common, was it Clapham Common, and the crowd were fantastic.
mm,
But there's just something when you go up north, for example, you go to Newcastle, they're just a bit more. Um, I don't know if it's a bit more demonstrative or they're just a bit more. They just got a bit more love because you've come there and it's, oh my God, thank you for coming. And yeah,
mm.
it's strange, strange.
Well, the bands seem to open up. See, I didn't know much about music in the 80s, and but I started to like. I mean, I loved modern romance, and I'm not just saying that, right? I also liked Matt Bianco as well, and I sort of got in. I had no idea it was, what sort of music it was, but I just sort of liked that type of music, that sort of South American beat.
Mm.
It even showed up in sort of synth bands. I mean, I remember Thomas Dolby doing a cover of a record. I scared myself. I can't remember who the original artist was, but there was a lot of it coming through. You seem to open the door to that sort of music.
Um, I think it's one of those things. I mean, Latin music has been huge always.
Yeah,
Obviously South American, but it's been filtering over to this side. I think to this day we're probably still the only British band that have kind of assimilated that sound in any way and had success with it. Matt Bianco, yes, they had a little bit of that, but they're more jazzy. I mean, I love Matt Bianco. I just think, um, fantastic musicians, and just the way they treat the songs are just beautiful. But they're more jazz and Latin, where we were just pop Latin. There was another band as well that didn't make it actually, and I thought they were great. A band called Blue Rondo a la Turk, and I
oh no, I
thought
didn't know them.
I thought they were great. In actual fact, there was at the time there was no Matt Bianco, and there were two bands vying for that Latin thing, and we broke through, and they didn't. But when I found out about them and I went and heard their stuff, I thought, flipping hell, they're really good.
Mm.
I suppose it's one of those things. It's like VHS and Betamax. You can get a VHS and then you listen to the Betamax and go, wow, that is. But Betamax never made it, even though it's better quality. Yeah, better sound, better visual. But Modern Romance made it, and the other lot didn't. Blue Rondo, they were really good though as well. And
Yeah.
for me, Matt Bianco were just untouchable. I think they're great, fantastic musicians.
But why did Jeffrey eventually leave the band?
Jeffrey, let's speak about little Jeffrey. Jeff left the band because um, he left the band saying, "I'm going to go and have a solo career. Well, nothing more to do with Modern Romance." We never heard from him, saw him again. That was it. He
Hmm.
went off. I think the management tried to keep in touch with him, and he released his single and went along to the release. But that was the only time we saw him, and then we never saw him again. His solo career obviously didn't take off. He's not selling out stadiums, not that I've heard. Um, but do you know what? He did the band a favour because when he left, it, it, we've, as I said, when I first joined the band, I thought the vocals were pretty weak, pretty
Yeah.
dire. And we had a backing vocalist at the time called Michael Mullins, who had the voice of an angel. He was a great singer. I mean, he just had such a wonderful, wonderful voice, like a proper soul singer. So once Jeff left, we immediately said to me, right, 'cause he was a fireman and doing his taking days off from being a fireman to come and sing the Modern Romance. Which is right, you've got to stop all that nonsense. Got to put the fires out here now. We need a singer. Come and do this. Um, so he joined the band, but immediately we were able to do songs that we couldn't do with Jeff because Jeff was very monochrome vocally. He could that's all he could do. That
Yeah.
key, that song, there was no light and shade in his voice, whereas Mick, being a proper singer, enabled us to write soul songs. We did covers of things like Just My Imagination, Temptations. We did little B-sides and stuff, the album tracks of like real funky like little things, which we'd never do with Jeff, and Mick sang in a key that Jeff could only dream of. The
Yeah.
keys. Mick could sing in a variety of keys. It was great all round. So that enabled the band to do songs like High Life, like Best Years. Jeff could never have sung that.
Hmm.
It would have been really low, which means it wouldn't have had the impact that it has, you know. Um, and the band had, even bigger and better success as a result. But
Yeah.
the irony is, we go fast forward, that um, that ability to write these better songs and these funky songs and these more sort of intricate songs meant that eventually we were writing songs that were so intricate and so that they became a bit, quite far removed from what we were known for. So we were writing basically soul and funky kind of songs. So when we went to RCA, this has been 84, 85. They'd signed Modern Romance to Hitmakers, and all of a sudden they had Modern Romance, it's almost like a soul band.
Hmm.
And yes, I contributed to that. I actually wrote the title track for the album and then contributed with another track as well. Um, and I listened to it recently because someone wanted to hear them. I played them, and I thought I still think they're good songs, but we should have had a few Latin flavored songs on the album
Yeah.
because that's what we're known for. And I think what happened is the album sold a few, a reasonable amount, but we charted, but it wasn't enough to kind of set the world alight. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is because people thought, oh, they changed their sound, we're out to all that salsa stuff. And so basically, we shot ourselves in the foot with that one later on down the line. But until we got to that point, we were doing so well and releasing singles that were selling 13, 14,000 a day, every day.
Right.
That's how that's how we were getting into the charts. But it's one of those things. It's progress, but it's progress which actually, you know, harmed us in the end.
I think the problem with that a lot of bands find, and you get it with people like Big Country and people like that as well. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So if you carry on sort of playing, you find a sort of I wouldn't say a formula, but you know what I mean. It's like a sound. If you stick with it, eventually the music press turn against you and they just say, "Oh, yeah, yet another record." You might as well just play the last one. If you try to evolve, they criticise you as well because you're suddenly being pretentious to trying something new,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's difficult, isn't it?
it is. It is. Um, I think we could have actually gone for the middle ground, and as I said, had a few salsa tracks
Hmm.
and a few soul tracks, and released the salsa song instead of releasing a soul song because all of them were kind of like soulful, funky, modern poppy. There was nothing modern romance about them. Um,
Yeah,
they were good songs. Don't get me wrong; they were all good songs in their own right, but none of them were songs that you could go, modern romance. It sounds like a. If I'd have heard them, I'd have thought, well, who is this? Yeah, it's a good song, but who is this? I don't know this band.
yeah,
And I think that's what threw a lot of people that they couldn't. Um, we weren't in that pigeonhole anymore. Salsa pop was suddenly we're playing pop like maybe some of the other bands, and I think yes, we played some good funky things on there, some good soulful stuff. But I think if people want soul, they're going to go and listen to I don't know Teddy Pendergrass or Marvin Gaye or any of these
yeah.
people, or even Simply Red, who are playing like the soulful sort of stuff. Why would they want to go and listen to One Romance trying to play this stuff?
Well, I thought, yeah, I liked it myself. Why did you leave WEA to go to RCA?
Um, well, that's a question I can't really answer because I never had much say in it. The management said the band are signing a new deal with RCA,
Yeah,
and that's what happened. And I thought, okay, um, we still had our producer Tony Visconti, so okay, we're going to record with Tony, but all the songs were kind of poppy, sort of poppy, middle of the roady, sort of but nothing salsa-ish. Nothing wrong with the songs. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong with the songs. All
yeah,
well crafted. But none of them had. There was no link between those songs and Modern Romance, the previous album, previous singles. So
Yeah.
the singles were released from it were kind of nothing to do with Modern Romance. And anyone who'd hear them wouldn't go, oh, I recognise that sound. This must be the new Modern Romance song. They'd,
Yeah.
they'd think, oh, it's just a song playing on the radio. Probably ignore it and get on with what they're doing, working under a car, whatever it was, and we just didn't have the same impact anymore.
You had a bit of a change of image as well, didn't you? You wore different clothes and different haircuts and things like that when you went to
Yeah,
RCA.
yeah. It all went a bit sort of with lots of hair, but like more rocky looking and leather and stuff. Not all the time, but some of it was. Like the cover of the album was playing in a scrapyard, and it just snowed, and they've got set up a stage for us, and we're playing in the snow, with these like leathers and stuff, and it's like, we're not, yeah, we're not a rock band. Well, why are we doing this? But it looked great. I loved it at the time. I thought it was great. But when I think now, I think maybe that was a step too far. Hindsight is fantastic. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
So your band sort of decided to call it a day. It was around about 1985, wasn't it? So what happened after all that? I know you brought the band back together again, fairly recently, but what happened in the middle?
Well, in that middle bit, I personally, I went and played, did loads of session work with different people. Played with people coming from other countries, like artists that were well known coming in from other countries. I got onto this little circuit where, oh yeah, we'll get Andy to play drums and so and so. Sort of the Greek version of Julio Iglesias would come over and I'd be playing drums for him. Uh,
Hmm.
so a lot of times friends go to me, oh yeah, I like this person. I go, oh yeah, I played drums for him. And they go, really? I go, yeah, 1992, wherever it was. So we had a long period of that. I played on a Boy George album. I played with Craig. Remember Craig McLaughlin?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I played with him and did some TVs and stuff with him. So yeah, I played with a few different people, did some cabaret stuff, weddings and the normal nonsense,
yeah.
pay the rent, whatever. And then in 1999, I met with, oh, excuse me, I met with David James, who was the bass player of the band, and who after Jeff left, because they were the two founder members, after Jeff left, it was just Dave left in charge of taking the reins fully by himself, and off we went to bigger and better things. So I got in touch with Dave and I said, look, there's this real revival for 80s music now.
Hmm.
We should why don't you and I get together and get Modern Romance together, get your brother back in because his brother was a keyboard player. And he said, well, Rob's doing this and this, he won't do it. He said, me personally, I don't want to go back on stage ever again. I'm managing. At the time, he was managing Sinead O'Connor and a couple of other people. So he said, I just don't want to get into anything now. I can't see myself ever going on stage again. But he said to me, as an original member who was there from the very first single, like this very first hit, he said, you've got the right to go and do it. So he then signed over to me, because he owned the name at the time, signed over the name to me and said, there you go, you're Modern Romance, Nate, and do what you want. So I just went out and formed a band from musicians that I'd already worked with, that I knew.
Hmm.
And I had a couple of auditions for different people, but generally got people I knew. And launched Modern Romance, because at the end of the day, I own the name. I can be Modern Romance. Although I must admit, initially I thought I'll play some timbales on the front of the stage, sing a couple of songs, just a couple of songs,
Hmm.
the easy ones, and then get someone else to do the more complicated stuff. Because although I sang from behind a drum kit for many, many years, and even sang when I was doing the cabaret stuff, I'd sing You to Me Are Everything, I'd sing all different kinds of stuff. I from behind the drum kit was fine, but I didn't see myself as out front holding a microphone. It's a different psychological thing to stand out.
Yeah.
He's up standing there naked. So I thought I'll get someone else to do the songs. Now I have my timbales around me and just play some stuff and sing a bit. And we auditioned loads of people. We auditioned some absolutely great singers, really great. But when it came to singing the Modern Romance songs, they all struggled. I remember looking at one of my mates and thinking, why are they all struggling? I mean, he's just done a perfect, Phil Collins without being Phil Collins, but he sang the song perfectly. And then when it came to singing the Modern Romance song, he's struggling. You can hear he's not comfortable, doesn't sit with him. And then we realised that from Best Years of Our Lives, High Life, Stop That Crazy Rhythm, Walking in the Rain, and all the album tracks, anything we've done since Jeff left was all in such a high key. None of these guys could sing it. They'd struggle because it was really up.
I see. Yeah.
Because I was always used to doing the harmonies too, which were even higher. I then had no problem singing these songs. And everyone said, "You're going to have to do it." And I went, "No, don't be ridiculous. I'm a drummer who sings, not a singer. Two different things." No, no, you have to do it. You'll have to do it because no one else can do it. And time is of the essence. And, you've been asked to do gigs and you can't turn them down because you haven't found a singer. So I was kind of forced into it, really. And it was not, much as I love it now, I have to say it was not the best experience in the world for me. I was absolutely bricking it. To stand out there and know that everyone's looking at you, not the band, it's just all looking at you because you're singing. It's like, oh dear. And yet, if you put me in a room of 20 people to sing, I'd have been nervous. If you put me in a room of 10,000 people and said, play drums and sing, it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
I'm doing two things as well. I'm drumming and singing. I'm still singing, still doing the thing that I've been asked to do in front of the 20 people, but it was that psychological thing. I've got protection. I've got the drum kit around me.
Yeah.
Very weird. It's just something you get used to, I think. So the first year and a half, I was so nervous every time we had a gig, and it gradually got less and less and less and less until in the end I realised, do you know what? I did that gig tonight and I wasn't nervous. Oh, okay, maybe it's gone, and it has. I could say the closest I came to that feeling from sort of say by 2001, I was okay with it. Completely, almost blasé. We're doing a gig, yeah, come on, what can go wrong? Let's do it. The only time I got back to that point was 20 years later when we went back for our first gigs after lockdown. Everyone, I mean, I must admit, I was chatting. So I did one of the Let's Rock gigs and we're all chatting outside. Now, if I recall, it was Toyah, Hazel Dean, both guys from Heaven 17, and one other person, I can't remember, but we were chatting outside, just in the common area where the tables on, we eat and stuff. And we were all chatting away. And then someone piped up and said, "Is it just me?" I said, "Because I'm really quite nervous about doing this because we hadn't done it for almost 2 years." And someone else said, "Oh, thank God." I thought it was just me. And then one of the guys from Heaven 17 turns around and says, "I keep wondering if I'm going to remember the lyrics to my own songs that I wrote." He said, I'm sitting there thinking, will I remember the lyrics? Because it's been so long. And then later that day, I was chatting to one of the techie guys, and he'd worked the day before with Tony Hadley.
Yeah.
And he said, Tony was like that yesterday. He said, he didn't know what, and Tony's normally, Tony's like me. We're calm and collected. We've got a gig. We're going to do the gig, very professional. And Tony was apprehensive about doing it as well. It's like, oh my God, and I thought, well, it's not just me. It's not just us lot. Tony, it's everyone. Right. That's the only time I can remember being. But the thing is, as soon as you stepped out on the stage, literally 5 seconds after stepping out and singing your first line and seeing all the people there, you go, "Ah, yes, this is what I do for a living. Yes, now I remember." Just got on with it. But
Yeah.
honestly, it was so weird knowing that all these people were standing there, a whole bunch of hits between us, and we're all crapping ourselves because we're going to go out and sing.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I used to be a lecturer, believe it or not, years ago. And my first lecture, those semicircular ones that are sort of tiered up like that, and there was only about 200 people, but the night before I just couldn't sleep with the panic of going out there, and it was just teaching people. And it took me about, I think after 10 minutes, you're okay because you start talking and they just blur out, don't they? You stop focusing on them and just start internalizing. I think that's the way to call it. But yeah, I've never done it in front of like thousands like you guys have,
I don't know. I think I mean that Let's Rock thing. I remember it's Let's Rock Liverpool, and after the initial walking out on stage, and we don't blur them out. You actually embrace them a bit more because you see them, and when you see the look on their face, how pleased they are to see you, and you started singing your song, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah." You sort of think, "Oh." Yeah, they still remember. You don't actually think this, but it's almost as though your brain's saying they still remember you, they still like you, they still know who you are. You can still do what you used to do. So get on with it. And you sort of
Yeah,
just down and go, right, okay. Business, normal business has been resumed. Let's just get on with it. It's fine. But it is the most bizarre thing to know that everybody was affected in that way.
yeah.
But
When are
yeah,
you playing next? Have you got any plans to play soon?
sorry.
Have you got any gigs coming up?
Yeah, I've got some towards the end of the year. Admittedly, this year's been a bit quieter, but having said that, it's giving me the opportunity because I've been so busy. I've been doing up my house and doing this and doing that. So it's giving me the opportunity. There's a whole bunch of, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I can see from here, and there are more behind. There are 24 photograph albums there, excuse me, that I've got to go through and scan photographs that I want scan photographs that I may want included in my book.
Oh,
That's
okay.
going to take me days.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing, I don't know, I'll probably do maybe an hour at night while I'm watching a bit to do an hour and then get bored and go, right, stop now and put those albums away and do the next lot. But there are loads. But the thing is, I had a friend come around last week, a photographer friend of mine, and I, I had all these, those cardboard rolls you get posters in,
Yeah. Yeah.
big tubes. So I had those that went with me from my parents' house to my field to my house in Harrow and to this house in Harrow that followed me around since the 80s, right? And about a year and a half ago, I thought, what the hell is in these things? I'm carrying them around. What's in them? Um, I just couldn't remember, but they're obviously something I wanted to keep for some reason. So I looked at them and I found various Batman posters from different films from the 80s.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, I'll keep those, yeah. But then amongst them were loads of posters from Modern Romance gigs from the 80s.
Ah,
Um, one from Hong Kong, one from Japan, one from Denmark, there's one from Holland, there's quite a few from the UK. And they're all obviously because they're all different productions, all very different colours and very, whoever decided to throw this colour in, it's very glittery or this or that. So my friend Jules came around last week and we put some blue tack on the kitchen cabinets as the biggest surface we could get because some of them are huge. So he was able to stand back, take pictures of them. He sent them back to me yesterday. So I've got all those. Obviously, I couldn't do those on a scanner. But the photos, he said to me, you're better off scanning them because he said there's no, you know, I would have to stand above this to make sure there's no reflection, this, that. Whereas if you
yeah.
and there's no reflection whatsoever. So I've got that to do. There's always stuff to do, sending emails to people regarding the band, people that make inquiries. So there's always stuff to do. But it gives me an opportunity, not having the gigs, I suppose, gives me an opportunity to do the house. Because when I've got a gig coming up, I can't focus on things in the house. I need to focus on the emails to do that gig, what we need, our
Yeah.
requirement, the
Yeah.
equipment, the band, make sure the band are all going to be available on the day, make sure they've got their accommodation sorted out, make sure this and that. So people think you just turn up and things happen. No, the stuff that goes on behind is, I do wish there was, I've got a tour manager, but I just wish there was a manager that did all that stuff behind the scenes as well.
Yeah.
But then I've had that before, and they didn't do it as well as I would. They weren't
Yeah.
as good as me, and I thought, no, do you know what? It's my baby. I'm going to do it. So that's what I've been doing ever since 2000. I think the last time I had someone was 2005, 6.
Hmm.
For 20 years I've been doing it. And I'd rather do that because, as I said, I'm more thorough, and you know, it's pointless talking to someone else and then they then have to speak to me. I'd rather people
Yeah. Yeah.
speak to me. And I also find, I don't know, maybe it's my imagination, but I think people would like the fact that they're talking to somebody within the band,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
somebody who's going to be all the fishes in the well, Mr. 10% or 15%, I'm, in charge of this. No. Most times, there are times when I get people to oversee gigs for me and I say, look, can you take charge of this, manage this for a while? Just for this one gig because I've got other things to do. But generally, I tend to do them because I like I like to have that personal input and that personal touch, and it means I speak to people before I get to a gig instead of turning up and they go, I'm so and so, oh, hello, I'm Andy. I already know them, I've already spoken to them, and we've chatted and had a laugh on the phone. And so it's, oh, hi, yeah, it's almost like friends when you first get there. I like that.
Yeah,
It makes things go along so much easier.
yeah. Well, I'm glad to see you still playing anyway. I've always enjoyed your music. Thanks for sending me all those tracks as well. I sort of played them on a loop for a while, and yeah, it's a nice trip down memory lane. So thank you for that as well.
That's right.
Um, but nice talking to you, mate.
What did you think of the new ones?
Yeah,
There was Yaya and Marie, the two of the
yeah,
new ones. I'm just curious what you think of them.
yeah. Again, it's like it's the same but different. It's yeah. I think you've nailed the sort of style of the band still, but I still like the music. It's yeah.
It's still very summery, it's still got
Hmm.
that, but it's not like a modern summery feel.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely yeah. I'll have another play, and I'll give you like a better idea. But yeah, certainly the fits in with the rest of the stuff.
Mm.
Yes, yeah,
That's,
it was seamless.
yeah, that's what we need. We need it to sit in there, not stand out and go, this is an anomaly. What's this song doing on here? What's the birdie song doing on here? Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Mate, well, nice chatting to you, and it's been great. Thank you. It's been really fascinating.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay, mate. Well, you take care. Thank you.
All right. Anytime you need to chat, I'm here. You know where I am.